All right, today on this special episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon, we will celebrate the 45th anniversary of what I think is the greatest album from my number one artist, the man they call the eighth wonder of the world, Stevie Wonder. Joining me on today's show as we talk about the impact of this absolutely amazing album is my co-host, of course, Charles Kirkland Jr., who joins me every week. And also joining us, and welcome back to the show, is it Heart and Soul? Am I correct, Dave?
Heart and Soul, Sirius XM, also Silk and Kirk Franklin's Praise.
All that for my man Dave Dickinson, who we go back a ways, but I'm always glad when he's able to lend his expertise. So the three of us will talk about this album. We'll have all that and more over the next 60 minutes on Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. All right, welcome to this special episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. Dave Dickerson from Sirius XM, as well as Charles Kirkland Jr. joined me on September 28th, 1976. Stevie Wonder released what many call not just his best album, but maybe one of the greatest albums of all time, which is the reason why we're dedicating an entire show to it. Of course, that album was Songs in the Key of Life. First of all, before we get started, man, because we got a lot of ground to cover tonight, I want to go to Dave first because, you know, as much as I love my world of movies, I respect this man and what he's been able to teach me about music. And all those times he told me I was wrong about music and he was right. So Dave Dickerson, talk to me in your professional expertise about what made this album or what made this particular album so special by Stevie Wonder.
Well, I don't know if I can speak about it professionally because I remember when it came out, it was a long time before I was going to be a professional person. I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was thinking about it just as a music lover and a musician myself at the time. And this album, it was a double album plus a 45, so you know it goes back. It had everything that you would want in a piece. It had music that ran the gamut from funk to salsa it had everything on it, man. And it was a great body of work that was extended. You know, you're talking about at the time, you got to think about most people were dropping albums that might have had 12 cuts on it, you know, unless they had long cuts. And this man put out an album, or double album, plus a 45. So it was, you know, I don't know how many songs on side 1, side 2, side 3, side 4. Then you had side 1 and 2 of the 45 that went along with it. And at the time, that was something crazy. I don't think anybody else has ever done anything like that. To me, it was, you know, Stevie Wonder coming alive to me. I know he had other albums before, like Talking Book and things like that, but this one was really, really special.
Oh man, did we lose Dave right in the middle?
And I think this was the first one after that. Am I right or am I wrong?
This album, well, I'm going to go into that in a second, but before I break it down, and I want to apologize, first of all, because you are much too young to professionally have been working in the business when his album dropped in 1976. So my apologies on that, man. I'm not trying to put you out there and make you look like you've been 40, 50 years in the game. You are in the game, but not that long. All right. So, Charles, talk to me before we lay out what this album is. What are your thoughts on Songs in the Key of Life and this absolutely amazing milestone that we're looking at 45 years celebrating this album?
Well, like David said before, this is a marvel of work that Stevie put out in 1976. I'm with 2.5. I mean, a lot of people say it's a double album. That's if the original album had another EP that came with it that had 4 more songs that were included. One of them being I can't think of it right now. Oh, Ebony
Oh,
Eyes.
it's God, Saturn, All Day Sucker, and I'll have to think about the other two. I'll look them up, but yeah. But go ahead. You're right. Go ahead.
Ebony Eyes and Easygoing Evening, I believe.
Right.
But I mean, everyone says that this is probably his best work, and if nothing else, it's the most work that he put into an album in 1976. But then, it's just coming off of the back of 3 other albums. I mean, in that short span of time, he just produced so much work. It was probably what solidified Stevie as the hardest working and the best artist in the 70s. And it's a testament that lasts to this day. It's still Songs of the Key of Life. You guys did the Rolling Stone show before. I don't even remember where it landed in the Rolling Stone, the new ranking, but it's his best work. It's his best work.
All right, I'm going to cover that now. And we put the cart before the horse. So my apologies to the audience when we're talking about giving our thoughts on Songs of the Key of Life, which I haven't given mine yet. But let's talk a bit about what this album is. Not what it was, but what it is. It was, at the time, the 18th studio album by Stevie Wonder, and it was released, as I said, on September the 28th, 1976, on Tamla Records, which was the division of Motown. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about some of the backstory on this, but this double album has been regarded by music journalists as the culmination of Wonder's classic period of recording. This album came on the heels, and I'll start with this. Wonder in 1974, we'll take it back there because that's what you were just referencing, Charles. His previous albums, Talking Book, Inner Visions, and Fulfilling This First Finale, those 3 back-to-back albums, were all critical successes, right? But by the end of 75, Wonder thought seriously about hanging it up and retiring and getting out of the music game. He wanted to move to Ghana and work with handicapped children. And even they were planning a farewell concert to kind of bring the curtain down on Wonder's career. But then he changed his mind. And as his contract was running out, now I've heard a couple of stories, which this one that I'm going off now doesn't report it, but I'm going to tell you what I heard. He came to Berry Gordy and told him that if you want me to do this album, I'm going to need a signing bonus of $13 million. And remember, this is 1975, 76. So $13 million is a lot of money now, but it was really a lot of money like 45 years ago. Yeah. And Berry Gordy said, okay, let me listen to the album. He gave it to Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy called him the next day and cut him a check for $13 million. Now, what they're saying here is that he signed at the time, Charles, which was the largest deal in the history for any artist. He signed a 7-year, 7-album deal for $37 million. Now, again, 1975, 76 money, that deal today would be a 7-year, 7-album deal for $178 million. That's the equivalent of what Stevie Wonder did in 1975. And it also, in addition to that, gave him full artistic control. And as I said previously, was the largest deal that an artist had ever signed. Now, when the album was released, it was released as a double LP and a 4-song bonus EP, which Charles talked about. And its lead singles, I Wish and the follow-up, Sir Duke, both reached #1 on Billboard's Hot 100. It spent 13 weeks, the album spent 13 weeks at #1, becoming the album with the most weeks at #1 for the entire year of 1977. It was also the second best-selling album of 77 and was certified diamond in 2005. Diamond is 10 million copies sold, right? Songs of the Key of Life won Album of the Year, of course, at the 19th Annual Grammy Awards, and it won 3 additional awards for Stevie Wonder. It was up for 7 awards. And since then, its impact is undeniable. Voted the number 89 album on one list of all-time top 1,000 albums. Rolling Stone, which Charles asked, I don't know where it ranked on Rolling Stones, it's number 4. All time.
Yeah.
Number 4 LP all time, and was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2002. The album was also inducted into the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress, which deemed it culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Charles, there's a lot to go there, man. There's a lot. Now you've heard me say on this show a lot of times that I think Wonder's best single album is Intervisions. To me, it just is, because it has so many different layers and ranges. It won album of the year. It's a great album. But even I, as a staunch lover of Intervisions, will acknowledge that this double album is Wonder's best work, man. I mean, there's so much to chew on here. There's so many songs. The fact that Wonder took a year off after winning back-to-back Grammy Awards for Album of the Year, didn't release an album in 75, and now since 75, I'm gonna do a double album. And, all these titles, we always talk about what I love about Stevie Wonder. If you listen to the album titles, right? The album titles gives you the state of mind where Wonder is, right? In his creative process. I'm gonna give you my talking book. This is the music of my mind. These are my inner visions. I mean, come on, am I making this up? I'm like, these are my inner visions. These are the songs which are the keys to life, the songs in the key of life.
Okay, let me address a couple things. I heard the story so many times that he said that he wanted to give up music in 75 and that he wanted to move to Ghana and all that's wonderful stuff. But I really think it was all a ploy for the contract. I really do. I really think that he's like, I've had these commercial success. I mean, these critical successes, but my commercial success is still looming in the distance. I didn't think that he was ready to really hang it up. I think he just wanted that creative control. He wanted that dollar, so that because he already had the songs. He knew what he was doing. It was all a ploy, because in 75, when he was talking about, he turned that album around in less than a year in 76. So he had the music. It was just like, Barry, I think I'm trying to go.
You know what? I'm not gonna say you're wrong. I'm not gonna say you're right, man, because you trying to make my favorite artist of all time, which Stevie Wonder is. We're not gonna shade Stevie Wonder, right? If Stevie Wonder said he wanted to go and move to Ghana, which subsequently he did wind up doing, recently. If he wanted to move to Ghana to work with handicapped kids, man, Stevie Wonder has given us the soundtrack of our lives. I mean, literally. I've been listening to Stevie Wonder music before I was born. He was making it, and he's still putting out music. His most recent thing was The Hands of Fate, which he released around the election last year. So Wonder is the soundtrack of our lives. His music is going to outlive us all, and it's going to still be culturally, amazing and relevant, no matter when they play it in the future, right? But so let's get back to this album, because, again, this is a good point, Charles, and I want to revisit what you said. Now, the working title for this album was Let's See Life the Way It Is. Stevie Wonder, again, another one of these telling titles. And the majority of the album was recorded during that period up in multiple studios in Hollywood. Now, Charles said that Wonder had the music all set. Not true. During this period, as a perfectionist, Wonder spent hours in the studio for almost every track he recorded. During this period, Charles, he wasn't eating or sleeping while everyone around him struggled to keep up. According to Wonder, he said, if my flow is going, I keep on until I peak. He was wearing these people out, man, making this album. Now, Charles, listen here. A total of 130 people worked on this album. But Wonder's preeminence during this album was evident, And among the people present during these sessions were legendary figures, not just of R&B, but of soul and jazz music, including folks like Herbie Hancock, who played organ on As. George Benson played electric guitar on Another Star. The late, great Minnie Riperton, as well as Denise Williams, sang backup on Ordinary Pain. I mean, so there was so many folks that worked on 130 people. And the irony of this, Charles, is that Benson worked on this album, and he was doing Breezing at the same time. And the two of them were nominated for the Grammy the following year. So George Benson knew going in that, like, I'm gonna sit here, man. I'm not gonna win because I'm not gonna be able to top Songs in the Key of Life.
Also, a little known dude named Mike Cimbello, who went on to make that classic Flashdance soundtrack that we knew about 5-6 years later. So everybody.
That's why I love Charles. That's why I love Charles, man. Charles is the glue guy. Charles fills it in. He's like, oh no, don't forget about Mike Cimbello. So this album, man, of course, when it came out, man, the response was immediate, man. I mean, you know, we'll go down the list, man, of so many people, man, who look at this album and think about this album. So let me tell my Songs in the Key of Life story, right? During this period in my life, when this album came out, I was a teenager. I was like a young teen, right? And I just remember that, you know, I used to listen to Sir Duke all the time. I just thought it was an amazing song. I didn't buy the album because, you know, thinking back on life now, can you imagine, Charles, like these classic albums that came out during that period, if we would have had like $2.35, you could have bought that. I mean, I wonder, and I've never done this research, how much was the double album Songs in the Key of Life in 1977 when it came out?
I have no idea.
I don't either, but it wasn't $10.
I got my copy for free because I took it from my uncle.
No, but I'm saying honestly, Charles, think about it. $5?
Probably about that much.
You know, and that's a double album. So it could have been cheaper than that. But my point to you is that we didn't, I mean, I remember when I was young buying Bootsy Collins' album, Bootzilla. And we opened up the album, there was some paper glasses in it. You could take out the album and you put the Bootsy's glasses on. And you know, you're not thinking, man, this album might be worth something one day. Let's hold on to this, don't touch. Oh, come on, man. It was in high school, man. It was a fun album. We just ripped the album up. But I say all that to say that I remember Sir Duke and I Wish being huge songs for Stevie Wonder. And I was too young to really understand the significance of who Stevie Wonder was at that time, and who he would later become. None of us knew, right? I mean, we knew his music was awesome. It's the same thing with albums like Thriller. Who knew when Thriller dropped or when Purple Rain dropped? Who knew? Who knew? So I say all that to say that I remember when his album dropped, man, I remember it was a hit for a long time. I remember going in 1977, and I was in high school. This album was constantly on airplay. And I was like, man, Stevie Wonder is just absolutely amazing, man. This guy can do no wrong. I mean, as we talked earlier, he was coming off of 2 back-to-back albums of the year, and he had Fulfilling First Finale, Talking Book, and all these other projects. Stevie Wonder is just absolutely prolific as a songwriter, as an artist. And then later on, we would see his activism really come to the forefront. And let us also, when we talk about Wonder's activism, let us not forget that a lot of his worldview or a little small portion of his worldview was changed when he went on tour with Bob Marley in 1979. And that pairing or that relationship produced Hotter Than July and Master Blaster, which was a song where he name checks Bob Marley in the song. Wonder to me is just the reason why, and this goes back to what I even talked about over the weekend when we did the Rolling Stones 200 show. I've always told you guys that he's my favorite artist of all time. And he's my favorite artist because the fact that he has had this disability with his sight his entire life it is heightened to me. I think it has heightened all of his senses. And whether you want to say the Lord, God, the Almighty, some spirit funnels stuff through Wonder. And there are not too many guys. I mean, Charles, we talk about Prince as a guy who once said, I can write a song every year. There have been other artists who music just kind of flows through them. Wonder is a guy who, by virtue that he can't see, is something about what I think is his imagination that has him experience certain things, takes it in through his prism. And when he gives it back out to us, he gives it not to us on a surface level, but it goes into his consciousness and it comes back out in ways where he just makes classic work.
It's totally amazing, as you say, for us, because he gives us a glimpse of what he sees through his music. I mean, you talked about the titles of his albums, Inner Visions, Music of My Mind, all these things. We get a glimpse of what a blind Black man, this talented icon that he is, respected and loved by generations of people that came after him, just what he sees and how he sees it and what it means to him. And we can't say that he's jaded one way or another, because he doesn't see the world the way we see it. He's got a vision that is, like no other, which allows him to create like no other. And we're just amazed. I'm amazed by how he does his work and what he says in it.
Well, and I know we're talking about songs in the key of life, but in order to really kind of put this album into context, we have to talk about the person who made it, right? So that's why we're spending some time, taking some time away from the album, which we'll go back to. But I just want to point out, because one day it kind of dawned on me, and it's sad that Dave's not here, because Dave and I had a conversation years ago, back when both of us were working here locally at Howard University Radio, WHUR. And Dave was the one who kind of gave me the blueprint that he thinks and he uses this as a metric, which I thought was one of the things that always stayed with me, that every artist, no matter who it is, whether it's Ray Charles, Miles Davis, whether it's John Coltrane, Diana Ross, Supreme, Smokey, Michael Jackson, Prince, whoever it is, every artist has a 10-year window when they're at their most prolific, right? We call it their classic period. Stevie Wonder's classic period started in 1972 and to me ended in 1980. So that classic period was like 8 to 9 years. Inside that 8 to 9 years, Wonder produced, wait for it, 6 classic albums in 8 years. Hotter Than July, Songs in the Key of Life, fulfilling this first finale, Inner Visions, Talking Book, and Music of My Mind. All those albums were made between 1972 and 1980. And
not only are these great albums, critically acclaimed albums, he won the Grammy every year.
He won 3 albums in a year for 3 of those 6 albums.
1976, when he was not nominated, and Paul Simon won for what is it? Still Crazy After All These Years. Simon got on the stage and thanked Stevie Wonder for not releasing an album so that he could win. That's how prolific and outstanding his work was for that period of those 8 years, the 8-9 years you're talking about.
Now, the other thing I want people to remember at home, because it didn't dawn on me, Charles, until I did the research. Stevie Wonder was born September of 1950, right? So when Stevie Wonder went on his run, so even before we get to his run, let's start talking about stuff like My Cherie Amour. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder wrote that when he was 19. He recorded that at 19. When he said, what's the song called? I never dreamed you leave in summer. He was 20. When he did Songs in the Key of Life, which was his Talking Book, Music of My Mind, Inner Visions. So in his 5th album of his six albums, when he recorded his album and released it, he was 26 years old. He was 26 years old when he made Songs in the Key of Life. No, I'm sorry, he was technically 25. It was released when he was 26.
Right.
He did Intervisions at 23. So when I tell you that Stevie Wonder is prolific and he's like nobody we've ever seen, Stevie Wonder is 70 now. We're celebrating the 45th anniversary of this album, which is his magnum opus, his greatest achievement. And I'm just overwhelmed because I remember where I was when I was 23 years old. And when I was 26 years old, it was not making an album that would outlive us all. So if Wonder had made those 5 albums, those 5 or 6 albums that did Hotter Than July and never made another album, he'd still be a legend. If he'd have just made these 6 albums and nothing else, not talking about Fingertips, not talking about any of the stuff that he did in the 60s, none of the stuff that he did in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. Wonder, you know, people throw around this word all the time, which bothers me. Icon, legend. We throw around that word, you know, like like it's a dollar. You know, he's an icon. He's a legend. What would we call Stevie Wonder, man? What do you call a man with this level of genius, this sort of musical appreciation, somebody who not just created signature works for himself, but, you know, it's funny. I was listening one day to Quincy Jones, right? And I was listening to The Dude in 1982. I'm not sure if you know this. There's a song on there that Patti Austin, excuse me. My apologies, Patti Austin. There's a song that Patti Austin has on Quincy's album that she sings the lead called I Bet You Wouldn't Hurt Me. You've heard this song before.
Absolutely.
That riff. Dun, dun, na, 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 na. Guess who that is?
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. Oh, by the way, there was this song years ago, probably like in the late 70s, that Jermaine Jackson had. Remember this one? I close my eyes and I see your face at night. Let's get serious. Remember Let's Get Serious? Yeah. Let's Get Serious and Fall in Love? Who wrote that song?
You know, before you say it and you hear the song, you're like, that groove sounds so familiar.
You know what's funny? It's so funny you would say that because when I go back and listen to Sirius, I'm like, of course that's Stevie Wonder. and you know what's funny? Stevie Wonder just gave that song away. Man, you had that one. That was a huge hit for Jermaine Jackson. See, Stevie, you couldn't have used that.
He could have, but you know, that's just
Charles,
pass away.
Yeah, you can have that one, man. Take that.
Look, and Jermaine is like, thank you, my biggest hit.
Oh, here's another one for you. When Stevie Wonder was about 16 or 17 years old, one day he was working on this groove, right? Dun, 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 dun. And he couldn't come up with any words for it. He was like, man, this is a nice groove. I got nothing. So he went and talked to Smokey Robinson. Smokey was like, something about a circus and something like, oh, okay, I can work with that. Tears of a Clown is born. Stevie Wonder gets the writing credit on that because that's his riff. Yep. Smokey came up with the lyrics. Stevie Wonder, man, I'm trying to initiate, and I'm not speaking to
don't
people.
Forget, he was 15 when he put that 15. One together.
15. So my point is that the reason why, as a film critic, that we sometimes stop down during a year and celebrate certain albums is because as a creative person, right? You know, as a film critic, Charles and I both write professionally films. You know, we review films, right? Or maybe television or festivals and things of that nature. But the impact of storytelling goes across the board, right? Whether it's a movie, a television show, a recording, live theater, at the core of all of this stuff is storytelling, right? And the fact, as Charles and I have been talking about, Wonder, who was blind a little bit at the birth. He wasn't blind at birth, but he was blind a little bit at the birth. And the fact that not just having a career, Charles, but having an impactful career that he can walk on any corner of the entire planet. And there is somebody who knows a song that this man has written. Who doesn't know any song from Stevie Wonder? Who? I was on the phone this afternoon and I called up a colleague that I wanted to have on a show, right? And I said, I know you're a little younger. Are you familiar with Stevie Wonder's songs, The Key of Life? And the reason why that person is not on the show is because they first said, well, give me a couple of songs. I said, well, if I had to give you a song, you can't be on this show. Because, and then I went as far as to say that as a person of color and an African-American, you almost get your card revoked if you can't name songs off song. Now, I don't expect, Charles, honestly, I don't expect anybody, unless they're hardcore Wonder fans, to know all the songs that were on this LP, but you got to be able to name some of the classic stuff, man. Knocks me off my feet. I don't want to bore you with it, but I love you. It knocks me off my feet. Pastime Paradise. Coolio used that. If you don't know Pastime Paradise, remember Gangsta's Paradise and then just come back.
How about that?
I wish, looking back at when I wasn't a little nappy-headed boy, I wish.
Love's in Need of Love Today is the first album when that song, the harmonies that from the moment that song starts, ooh, yeah, I mean, everybody knows that song. I mean, you may not know that it's on that album, but everybody knows that song. And he had 5 songs that came off of the singles. I Wish, Isn't She Lovely, Sir Duke, As, and Another Star. Top of the charts. All
right. So let's take some time here to talk about the song that I think is, when you talk about the cookout, right, where Black folks go to the cookout, like there's certain songs that I always play. You're gonna hear Joy and Pain at the cookout, Frankie Beverly and bass. Man, now I'm about to say the song. We already said the title was As, but it's always bothered me because I think the song should have been called Always. Because that he says always more than he says as in the song, as the, but the lyrics, let's go through this for a second, because I just think, Charles, that when I think about Stevie Wonder and I think about lyricism, right? I think about like songs like Saturn, which I'm going to go to in a second. Saturn is a really good song. If you feel your life's too hard, just go and have a talk with God. Stevie Wonder told you that. I mean, come on. I mean, maybe if Stevie tell you, you'll go do it. Charles and I tell you all the time, y'all like, but
whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. But Charles, listen to this. As around the sun, the earth knows she's revolving, and the rosebuds know to bloom in early May. Just as hate knows love's the cure, you can rest your mind assured that I'll be loving you always. I ain't even got to go no further. Charles, as the around the sun, the earth knows she's revolving, and the rosebuds know to bloom in early May.
Beautiful.
Freaking genius, man. Just genius. Genius. And see, and you're talking to a man, we were talking Saturday about lyricism. I am a lyric guy, right? You can give me all the tracks you want to. I need to hear some lyrics. I need some bars. So Stevie Wonder is telling you, as now can't reveal the mystery of tomorrow, but in passing will grow older every day. Just as all is born is new. Do what I know, what I say is true, that I'll be
loving you always. Golly.
Excuse me a second. Until the rainbow birds the stars out in the sky, until the ocean covers every mountain high, until the dolphin flies and parrots live at sea, until we dream of life and life becomes a dream.
How beautiful. I mean, if you just said one of those things to your girl, her knees would melt. And you could put a whole song of just those conundrums to express the depth of his love. I'm like, man, that brother, whoo, that's the reason why for me, As is the best album on the
You mean the best song on the album?
on the album for me. That's the best one.
Excuse me a second, Charles. Just as time knew to move on since the beginning, and the seasons know exactly when to change, just as kindness knows no shame, know through all your joys and pain that I'll be loving you always. As today I know I'm living, but tomorrow could make me the past, but I mustn't fear. For I know deep in my mind the love of me I've left behind, because I'll be loving you always. It gives me chills reading the lyrics. It's so freaking gorgeous. It is, and the thing that's interesting, Charles, if you listen to that song or any song on this album for that much, and just sit in the dark and close your eyes, you can see and envision what Wonder is singing to you. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why we stopped down with an hour to talk about this particular album.
All right. So I already told you what my favorite. What's your favorite song on this album?
Well, I like As a lot. I think As is a pretty good song. The song that I think blew my mind was when Stevie went Afro-futurism with me on the song Saturn, right? Packing my bags, going away to a place where the air is clean on Saturn. There's no sense to sit and watch people die. We don't fight our wars the way you do. We put all the things we use on Saturn. I love that song, man. It's, you can live to 205 on Saturn. It's the songs and the key life. But no, to answer your question, man, I think there's a couple songs other than As. Of course, Sir Duke and I Wish are too obvious because those were big pop hits. Knocks Me Off My Feet, I just think is a song that, you can envision him singing this song to this woman. I see us in the park. He's just laying out this story, and your love makes me weak and it knocks me off my feet, but I don't want to bore you with it. But I love you. I love you. I love you. And then he keeps saying, I really don't want to bore you. I love me some Stevie Wonder, man.
Look, what woman in the world is bored by hearing their man say, I love you? And how many, even when he says it as many times as he says it, for a woman to be bored by you saying, I love you, you say it a lot. And so, man, that's just a great lyric. I don't want to bore you with it. If you say that to a woman, she might, come on, you say it all you want to. You're not boring me, baby. Woo, what a line. What all right, Charles. Line.
There's this little song on the album called Pastime Paradise, right, that I talked about earlier that Coolio used. He says, been spending most of their lives living in a pastime paradise. They've been spending most of their lives living in a pastime paradise. Now, years ago, true story, we used to have a bit that we did on the morning show at WHUR where we would play a lyric and then we would have people call in to kind of dissect what the lyric meant, right? And to this day, I remember we did this show between 1999 and 2004. And we did this lyric in this song, and nobody could figure it out. Like, what was Stevie Wonder? What did he mean? So I'm gonna give it to you because maybe you're pretty smart, Charles. So I give you some credit. You in seminary right now, so you in tune with the Lord and the higher power. So you might be able to dissect this and figure it out. Now, he said, they've been wasting most of their time glorifying days long gone behind. They've been wasting most of their days, and here's the lyrics, Charles, in remembrance of ignorance, oldest praise. I was like, what is that? What is ignorance, oldest praise? You got anything on that one? Bro, I'm telling you, we set up on the air for 3 hours on a live radio show with people calling in. Now, what we needed to have done was to have found Stevie Wonder and just asked them, because I don't know. Look, watch this. That was 20 years ago. I still don't know. What does celebrating ignorance oldest praise mean?
I've heard people say that, there's racism is one of the old, I could be talking about racism. He could be talking about materialism. I don't know. But I mean, wow.
Right, watch this. The songs in the key of life, Stevie Wonder. So wait a minute. Tell me who of them will come to be? How many of them are you and me? Dissipation, race relations, consolation, segregation, dispensation, isolation, exploitation, mutilation, mutations, miscreation, confirmations of the evils of the world. I love this man. I mean, and for those out there, when I use the word love, I'm not talking about in the eros. Am I correct? Am I not pronouncing that correct? It's not the eros kind of love. It's the a love and appreciation for creatively who God made Stevie Wonder to be. There are no other Stevie Wonders, just like there's no other Tim Gordon, there's no other Charles Kirkland. We are each one of one, right? But sometimes in our one of oneness, God was like, I'm gonna sprinkle a little extra. Man, that is you can say the same thing with Prince. You can say the same thing with Michael Jackson, Jimi Hendrix, any artist who has given you lots of joy in life, they are one of one. That is it. They are gone, and there might be somebody that's like them, somebody similar. You ain't gonna get that version coming back. There's no Luther Vandross that's out there right now. There's no Whitney Houston. There's no Prince. There's no Michael Jackson. There's anybody who has left us. There's no James Brown or Aretha Franklin that's out there. They were one of one. Stevie Wonder is still with us. He is one of one. And this album is probably his number one, even though I'm gonna still fight you with Inner Visions is his best album. But I will acknowledge that this album is super special. It's super special, Charles. I'm gonna shut up, man. You go.
And I think the reason why everyone thinks this one, I think it's just because of the magnitude of work that's here that a lot of people classify this one as his best one. And I think if you look back, maybe Inner Visions might be the best album that he's ever done because
album.
Yeah, best album that he's
Not
ever done.
Double album.
Exactly, is my point. This is 2.5 albums that we're talking about here. That the amalgam of all the work that is in here is outstanding, and so a lot of people will be persuaded to say that this is the best because there's just so much. But I tend to think that Inner Visions is a superior album because every track on this, and I mean, you get a song like Ordinary Pain on Songs in the Key of Life, it kind of falls into the background because of everything that's around it, and you don't get, it's not the best song on the album, and so it falls into the background. But when you have how many 19, 20 songs on a
no, there's a total of 21 songs, and that's including so there's 17 on the double album, and then a Something Extra EP had an additional 4 songs on it that we talked about. So I'm ready to go through the song list because I think it's that important. Now, remember, all the songs on this album were written by Stevie Wonder unless otherwise noted, right? Love's in Need of Love Today. This is side 1 of the album. Have a Talk with God, Village Ghetto Land, Contusion, and Sir Duke make up the first side of the album. Second side of the album, the first, is a double album. I Wish, Knocks Me Off My Feet, Pastime Paradise, Summer Soft, and Ordinary Pain. That's just on one. Damn, how many hits is that? 1, 2, 3,
10.
4 of the singles that were released are on that one platter, right? That one album. The second album, Isn't She Lovely? Joy Inside My Tears. And who was it? It was a black man. This side 3. Then I Am Singing, If It's Magic, As, and Another Star conclude the double album. There's Something Extra EP, side 1. You can live to be 205 on Saturn.
Whew.
Ebony Eyes. And then on the other side was All Day Sucker and Easy Going Evening, My Mama's Calling. So, yeah, Charles, I want to talk a little bit about the legacy and the impact, because we got about 10 minutes to go on the show. So when we talk about the commercial success, we already know that, you know, we talked earlier that it was an album that immediately people knew who played on it, like, this thing is pretty special. Now, they said over time, this album became a standard, and it is considered Wonder's signature album. Of all the albums, Wonder told Q Magazine in April of 1995, Songs in the Key of Life is the album I'm most happy about. Just the time, just being alive to be a father, and then letting go and letting God give me the energy and strength I needed. Songs in the Key of Life is often cited as one of the greatest albums in pop music history. It was voted Best Album of the Year in the Village Voice annual Paz and Jap Critics Poll in 2001. VH1 named it the 7th greatest album of all time. In 2003, the album was ranked initially number 56 on Rolling Stone's magazine list of 500 greatest albums. It was later re-ranked 8 years later in 2012 at number 57, and then re-ranked, wait for it, Charles, number 4, 2020. Many musicians have also remarked on the quality of the album and its influence on their own work. Elton John said in the notes for Wonder and the 2003 Rolling Stone list of the Immortals, the greatest albums of all time, which Wonder was ranked number 15. John said, let's put it this way. Wherever I go in the world, Charles, I always take a copy of Songs in the Key of Life. For me, it's the best album ever made, and I'm always left in awe after listening to it. In an interview with Ebony Magazine, Michael Jackson called Songs in the Key of Life his favorite Stevie Wonder album. George Michaels, the late George Michaels, cited the album as his favorite of all time, and Mary J. Blige covered As for a 1999 single. Michael performed Love's Anita Love on his Faith Tour in 1988, released it as the B-side of Father Figure, and then performed Village Ghetto Land at Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday tribute in 1988. He really liked Stevie Wonder because he later covered Pastime Paradise, Knocks Me Off My Feet for his 1991 cover-to-cover tour. Now, R&B singers in particular have praised Songs in the Key of Life, Charles. Prince called it the best album ever recorded. All right, I wanted to just stop there for a minute. My number 3 favorite artists called my number 1 artist's his album, best album ever recorded. Mariah Carey generally names the album as one of her favorites, and Whitney Houston once remarked on the influence of Songs in the Key of Life of her singing. Now, during a photo shoot for an album, Whitney the Greatest Hits, Charles, you remember that? They did a home video, and during the home video, she demanded or requested that Songs in the Key of Life play while they were doing her photo shoot. I got nothing, man. I mean, we keep talking about, how I feel about the album, how you feel about the album. We have other artists who will validate what we've been saying all along about why this album is special, man. This album just grows in importance over time. And when I read you the track list, Charles, you know how many hits on that album? You can put that album on and just let it go. And you remember back in the day, maybe there are people out there that are watching too young. Y'all never had this experience when you would put an album on and the arm would be on it. At some point, it would drop down. And the song would just play. You just let that whole album just play. It's Stevie Wonder, man. It's like, unfortunately, it's not just this album. This album is the best one, but Inner Visions, Hotter Than July, Talking Book, Fulfilling the First Finale, Music on My Mind. Those albums ain't really that bad. I mean, you watch this, Charles. I take any of those other albums. You can have songs in the key like, give me Hotter Than July, which I think is a really good album. Inner Vision, really good album. But yeah, man, I can't praise Stevie Wonder's album enough. And the accolades just go on and on and on for this album, man. I mean, here we are. Now, remember, the other thing that I forgot to talk about is when this album debuted #1 in 1976, Charles, it became only the third album in history to achieve that feat, right? On the #1 on the Billboard's pop charts. And it was the first American album to ever do that. The other two albums that preceded it were Elton John's album, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, and Rock of the Westies, two Elton John albums back in 1975, were the first two albums to ever hit the Billboard charts #1. So we got about 5 minutes left, Charles. Let's talk about the activist that Stevie Wonder became. Early this year, we both saw Summer of Soul, right? And a very young 19-year-old Stevie Wonder was in Harlem. Maybe he was 18 because this concert happened before his birthday. So Wonder's 18. And this is, years before Wonder would go on and help the Dr. Martin Luther King birthday become popular by recording this little itty bitty song that has now become the official birthday song for Black folks around the globe. So when they sing happy birthday now, we don't go, happy birthday. No, we stopped doing that. It's happy birthday. So Stevie Wonder, again, he lent his activism to helping. And that song, Happy Birthday, is a large part on why Dr. King's birthday became a national holiday, which you can never understate that, man. There's no thanks that we can give to Stevie Wonder for his contribution on that. And I talked to you earlier, Charles, and told you that Wonder was so fed up during the elections last fall that he recorded 2 brief songs. And I forget the second song, but Hands of Fate, you can't put it in the hands of fate. Man, and again, I don't know if it had the impact that the Dr. King song, but just hearing a new composition by Stevie Wonder. He's had work with Spike Lee when he went and created the album around Jungle Fever, where he did the entire soundtrack for that. Of course, there's the famous story that I've told you of seeing Wonder in concert at the Capitol Center, which no longer exists, has been torn down, is a mall now. But I remember
a hospital.
A what?
It's a hospital.
You're on mute.
Am I?
You're not on mute? Oh, there you are. Say, what is it?
It's a hospital now.
Okay, I don't know what happened to your volume because I can't hear you right now. But you said it's a hospital.
Yes. Okay.
So, I saw him sing for 4.5 hours at the, where he performed every song. He did his thing. Wonder is an absolute genius, man. So, Charles, I'm trying to see if I can hear you. If you got any parting words before we get out of here, say something.
You said
there it is. Okay. Now I can hear you. I think I hit mute by accident. My apologies. Sorry about that. You said the Cap Center is now a hospital.
Yeah, where the Cap Center stood is now the new Prince George's County Memorial Hospital, whatever you want to call it.
Wow. Yeah, man. Good memories, man. So, Charles, do you have any takeaways, man, as we are going to upload this show tonight? And because we're actually doing something we typically never do. This is an episode the night before the anniversary. I wanted to make sure that we got our thoughts out as we celebrate. What I'm going to be doing all day tomorrow is listening to Stevie Wonder's album back and forth all day tomorrow. It's a big deal, man. It really is. And I think that there's a lot of folks.
Over 100 minutes of music from front to back. You talked about playing it on an album, the 20 minutes aside, but it's over 100 hours of music, 100 minutes of music from front to back, just to sit and just groove. If you got the CD, you just put that joker in and let it play, because you want to talk to the modern day chill age people. We talked about LPs, albums. They even got MP3s now. Just put it on and let it play. Put it on. Call it up on Spotify. Check this album out if you haven't heard it. I don't know why you would not have heard this album, but this is something that you need to experience from front to back. From front to back.
Well, I'm just going to say this on the way out the door, man, that I've never, in all the years that I worked in radio and places like BET and now NPR, where I get a chance to meet celebrities and, I've sat down with different actors and directors and folks. Never had the opportunity to meet Stevie Wonder, and I saw him in concert one time. But the impact of his life and what he has given us, this show is just a small sample. But I just want to say, if you ever get a chance to listen to this, or somebody who knows you will relay the message, thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of our show for everything that you have given us, all the art that you've given us, and the fact that you're still here with us. People like to say, well, give him his flowers. There ain't enough flowers you can give Stevie Wonder, man. This is not enough, because for everything you've done, I'm talking about your music, your activism, how you made us feel strong as a people, the way that you have innovated. Like you think back to Wonder when he was doing songs like Superstition, when, he's introducing technology and the things that he's done. I'm like, thank you, Stevie Wonder, for everything you've ever done. We love you. We love your music. We salute you. We celebrate you. Whatever we can do to just give you a small piece of the gratitude that I'm sure a lot of other people want to say the same things, but we have this platform. Charles, do you have anything on the way out?
Stevie's got his awards. He's got all the acclaimed critical, commercial that he could have. At 70 years old, his birthday just passed. And, I really wish that I feel that this generation needs to know Stevie in a deeper way. And I wish everyone would take that opportunity to seriously listen to just Stevie and see where his influences are on all the music that has come after him. You talked about Coolio, but I mean, you can hear it in Michael Jackson, you can hear it in Mary J. Blige. You listed a lot of people, but I think our generation, the new generation, needs to know Stevie in a personal way.
Amen. I can't say it any better than that, man. So we're ready to get out of here right now. And normally when we're doing our regular show, we tell you, please see something good at the movies. What I will tell you tomorrow is spend all your time celebrating the eighth wonder of the world, Stevie Wonder. You can pop in Songs in the Key of Life, as Charles said, 100 minutes of music. Then if you get a little more curious, there's some other albums you can check out. Just do a little Googling. He's got some work. He might be good. I mean, just check him out. He might be decent. But until then, man, we will see you guys later this week. Episode 472, that's a wrap. Charles, thank you for everything tonight, man. And happy Stevie Wonder Songs in the Key of Life Day to you tomorrow, man.
All right. Miss you, Dave. See you next time.
Oh, man, we do miss Dave, man. Take care, man.